it's another episode of what we're watching, and we're clearly watching a lot of TV instead of cleaning. I think we just given up. I hope you're staying safe. Oh, I didn't think about how this angle makes my belly look. Ooh. Anyway, so this will be a little different what we're watching because I couldn't figure out just one show, and so I was kind of debating between two shows, and then I started noticing all the similarities between them and ended up deciding that I would talk about both of them, and I checked with a Canadian friend and I got 3 shows. So, and we have been watching these 3 shows intermittently, but I think they're worth sharing for you because if you're like me, you're looking for, well, if you're looking like me and have more time than I do because this toddler thing right there, there's nothing better than finding a new to you show that has a ton of episodes that you can just sink into.
Like The Office.
Like The Office, but Canadian. So in this example, we're bringing you 3 Canadian comedies. You've probably heard of one, possibly 2, maybe all 3, but these are all shows that I discovered in the past, I'd say year or so, through my fact that I constantly am asking people to recommend sitcoms. All 3 are unusual in some ways and a lot alike, even though they're as different as can be. So what I mean is they're all written, the main character is also the show creator and one of the main writers, which is, we don't see as much in America. Seinfeld was like that, probably Everyone Loves Raymond. The Office credits a lot of their success to the fact that the writers and the actors had a lot of interaction, but in general in the US that's not done as often. So all 3 of these shows, the creator is the main character. All are set in small town Canada, and all of them have a lot of episodes. But they are all really different in tone and their view of small town. So the first one is Corner Gas.
It's something you don't mind if your kid walks in on.
Exactly. So Corner Gas is set in small town in Saskatchewan. The main character grew up there and said that he kind of got the idea from what if I never left my hometown. Corner Gas is named after the gas station. There's one gas station in town. It's connected to the only coffee shop. It is very much familiar to you. So if you've never seen it, you'll watch it and it's going to be, his parents bicker all the time. The dad doesn't really like the son. The 2 police officers spend more time doing everything else other than policing. The coffee store owner, first episode, inherits it from her aunt, and she's the outsider, and so we, as the viewer, we sort of see things through her. This town has all these tradition and rules, and she doesn't understand any of them. Brent, the main character's got a goofy idiot friend and an employee who's also a friend who's a little devious. Do you have anything to add to that? Mm-mm. This is an easy show to watch. When we sit down and watch it, we probably watch 2 hours worth, which is 4 episodes. There's not long-term story arcs. There's not a lot of character growth, at least over the seasons we've seen. We have not finished it yet. I believe there's quite a few episodes. I have to admit that there's been times where we have put the show on, we've been on our phone and doing everything, we've left the room to do something. I've come back and not realized it was a different episode. And I've been like, well, what? I don't understand. And he'll be like, that was 2 episodes ago. This is the current one. It is super easy. I would say if you're someone who likes to have the TV on and binge watch while you're doing data entry or working, and you want something that's easy to follow and comfortable, and like John said, your 3-year-old can wander in and you're not going to have to pay for therapy later on in life, this is the show for you. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, also set in a small town, is LetterKenny. Has 8 seasons as of now. I don't believe so.
8 seasons.
They do 2. They do 8 episode seasons. They do 2 a year. So I was like, how did they get 8 seasons? It's only been on a couple years. So Corner Gas has finished its run. I think they brought back a cartoon recently, but we don't know this. All of these shows we're suggesting are streamable in America. I can't say outside of the country, but from when I talked to a friend in Switzerland, we were able to find it for her.
LetterKenny's hilarious.
LetterKenny, though, is the opposite. It is not safe. The dialogue is fast and quick and
crude.
And very crude. I would not recommend watching it in front of your kids unless you want to have some long conversations about why that joke is funny, and probably get into some stuff that maybe you're not ready to discuss. It is also set in a rural town. The creator had the same thing. He said, what if I had never left this town? He lived in I would say they're probably the equivalent of like an American, like redneck or hick kind of thing. Small town, but very tough. They're always looking to fight. Lots and lots of sex jokes. I looked into it because I had seen, it started as a YouTube sketch, which was called LetterKenny Problems. And we were living in Wyoming at the time, and it reminded me a lot of a lot of stuff about coyotes coming in and killing the chickens, lots of jokes about small town where everybody slept with each other. That was very much the kind of community that we were living in. Not nearly so crude, but this is definitely one person's point of view of small town. I would say it's sort of like if Duck Dynasty had that aesthetic, had the sense of humor of South Park.
Yeah.
And so it's very much that. From what I've heard, the military, a lot of military guys in the U.S. think it's hilarious, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of military guys I know are from this kind of country environment. So, false alarm.
Anyway.
And
the last one's not even worth sharing.
No. We're not quite done with it yet. But so LetterKenny is the opposite in that you have to watch it. You've got to be listening because the dialogue is super, super, super fast. But we started it, and John is like, we cannot watch this with the baby loose. We cannot. No way. So we've watched a lot of YouTube clips with our headphones in, and I mean, it can be really funny, but we haven't seen the whole season. From what I understand, there are long-term story arcs. This is probably something you're going to get engrossed in. The third one, you don't even like at all.
Oh.
Do you want to go hang out with the baby and I'll finish it up? Oh, my sweetheart. My heart's sort of off playing. So the third one, when I was talking to a friend and who's Canadian, and I said, hey, for this video, can you kind of tell me, are these big shows in Canada? And she's like, yes, Corner Gas is the one I would watch with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law would not stand for something like LetterKenny, but they're both well-known and everything. And she's like, well, what about Schitt's Creek? Which, if you see down there in the title, you can see that it's pronounced one way, but it's spelled another, which is why, and a lot of late-night shows, at least here in the U.S., say they can only say the full name, and they've got to show it on the screen in order not to get censored. And so I think that alone tells you that it's not quite as safe as Corner Gas, but it is not at all as pushing the boundaries as LetterKenny. John didn't like it. John says he didn't hate it, but he has...
I hate it.
Okay, I guess he does hate it. But he never wants to watch it again. That has been a show, it just ended, so if you are someone who only wants to binge watch the whole thing, I think it just ended like 2 weeks ago. So now is the perfect time to catch up on it. It's on Netflix here in the US. It's also available on Amazon Prime, where I looked at it with commercials, which I hadn't seen before. LetterKenny is on Hulu, and Corner Gas is on, I think, Amazon Prime. But so Schitt's Creek, Eugene Levy, who you probably know best from The Father in American Pie, and Catherine O'Hara, who you probably know best from Home Alone. She was the mother. They were both Second City actors. They were more my hands down favorite show, Best in Show. They were both in it. I think they actually were, if I remember correctly, they were a couple in that movie. So they played the mom and dad, and Dan Levy, the son, developed the show with his dad. Now, he did not really grow up in a small town, but a lot of his experiences being in Hollywood come into the show, and I love that. I love when people bring their personal experiences into their writing. From what I've heard, this is a show that you need to give a little bit of time to. I'm on episode 7. I keep pushing forward. I don't dislike it, but it's not that kind of thing where I go, I have to go back. My friends who are romance writers say that season 3 is when the romance arc starts, and then for them, that's when it becomes binge-worthy. They cannot stop. But those are 3 things that we have been kind of jumping between and watching with various degrees of success. And hopefully one of those, if you're into comedy, if you're not into comedy, there's probably none of them. But if you're into comedy, hopefully one of those sound more intriguing than the other, and you can go and you can stream them and you can catch up. So I hope you're staying safe and sane. We'll catch you later.